And I do think it's remarkable. I mean, in 2013, there were a lot of videos about the history of the platform and it being the biggest launch ever. And the situation we find ourselves in, though, is that because it was so popular and thousands of core business applications were written in the 80s and 90s, the situation we have ourselves in is that those applications ran amazingly. They've supported the business for 20, 30 years, but they're falling a bit behind because the world's really changing and it's changing fast. So, you know, a lot of the companies I've dealt with for many years now are struggling with that issue. How do we take this robust line of business application, mission critical, really expensive and difficult to figure out how to replace it, and how do we take advantage of all the latest and greatest technologies that are in the world? One of our business partners, Help Systems, does a study every year with IBM iShops. We also have a lot of C-study results. IBM does these studies. And every time for the last 10 years, modernization seems to come up as the #1 issue. But what is modernization and what does it mean? How do you do it? And I'm kind of excited that we have two CIO types here to talk about their particular challenges in their particular businesses, because it's a different answer for everyone. It's not one size fits all. It's not here's a modernization chip, plug it in. Obviously, these are very difficult questions, and they require people that understand the business, that understand the applications that they're managing. So everybody's been hearing over and over again about mobile, social, cloud, big data and analytics, the Internet of Things. Every industry analyst out there, vendor, CIO is going to say the same things. They're making a huge difference in the way the world works. I like to look at some of the industry analysts, Gartner and IDC and Forrester, and just keep track of the reports. Now, what they're reporting is what they see, where they see the future going as they see the world changing. You certainly see it a lot more with the Fortune 500 companies that can spend millions of dollars to move in new directions. We have a mix of organization sizes here today, and that kind of mid-sized company. I mean, you can't spend millions of dollars every year to replace your systems or go in new directions, but you can start to move. And I think it's really important to understand what's happening and where things are changing. So this was actually last year's top 10 strategic technology trends for Gartner, but they've been saying the same thing every year in kind of an evolutionary fashion, that mobiles change the world, and it's not just mobile devices, it's computing everywhere, it's the Internet of Things, it's devices everywhere. 50% of the internet traffic are things talking to each other, not people, and that's going to affect the way we shop online, the way we shop, you hear things about omni-channel marketplaces. Some of the efficiencies you get online, you're going to get in the store as well. And they're going to recognize who you are, and there's going to be displays that change as you walk along. We've got things like endless aisle, all kinds of concepts like that. 3D printing is changing a number of industries. There's going to be some organizations that are going to be really hurt by it because they might produce little widgets that now manufacturers can produce themselves in their shop and save a lot of money. So it's just like when the internet came on the scene, the travel business changed. Every step along the way, as there's new technologies and new capabilities, the world changes. And as IT leaders in your organizations, it's important for you to understand what those disruptors are, what those trends are, what those capabilities are, so you can be a leader in your organization and bring people along. IBM does a lot of studies on smarter commerce. The value chain is changing. The customer now obviously has a lot more influence in the way that you need to operate. Customers are online talking to each other. We know that if you don't do something wrong, they're going to let the world know. They're expecting to be able to get online and get access to their information, to get access to their orders, whatever it is. That's in the B2B world, that's in the consumer world. I don't know if you've heard this term, third platform. IDC and Gartner have defined the third platform. First platform being mainframes or the power servers that we've been used to. Second platform being client server. And third platform being this cloud, mobile, analytics, social, and Internet of Things, where billions of users can come to one place, millions of apps. and it changes a lot of things. And one of the key things that it changes, and I'm sure some of you have seen this, is that what used to be IT's domain to make decisions is now, I'm sure you're getting advice across the business all the time about what you need to do, what technology you need to implement. And in many cases, if you don't do it, they're going to start doing it and may already have. So everything's changing, and you need to help your business figure out how to change, how your organization engages with customers, how you deliver products and services, how quickly you need to innovate, and how important technology is to innovate for organizations. But how do you do this if you're working with first or second platform applications and technologies is the big question. So I'm just going to jump through all these predictions. You'll find them online. Depending on what industry you're in, IDC has a number of predictions, Gartner has predictions. You've probably heard some of them about what's going to change. But this is a quote from IDC's Chief Research Officer, basically nothing less than the reinvention and continuous transformation of every industry in the world. So that's all you got to figure out. Nothing, no big deal. And if you have systems that were developed, the core of them were developed in the 90s and fit the business perfectly even in 2005, are they still meeting the needs of the business? And as I was saying, we call it shadow IT or stealth IT. This is actually a low number compared to some of the ones that I've seen, that 16% of IT spending is happening outside of IT and outside of IT's control. And the less you meet the needs of the business or listen, the more this is going to happen. And we all know what happens then is that things get out of sync. They complain that, oh, this report is wrong because my report says this. And it gets very hard to manage. So it's something that as IT, you need to continue to try and figure out. That's a challenge because it's a very complex business environment today. There's the requirement to transact with your partners, with your customers, to provide mobile interfaces. And keep in mind that when 10 years ago, we thought, oh, we need to provide a mobile interface. All that meant was, I just need to be able to give them a screen on their mobile device to access the system. There's a lot more to consider. I mean, the phones have GPS, so you can do location, you can help them with mapping into your application. They have cameras, they can scan things, they interact with other apps. They can walk by in a retail environment and talk to things. That's just going to change everything. So as IT, you have to be kind of thinking outside the box and starting to understand that. And if somebody in your merchandising department or marketing department or whatever area it is starts to implement some of these new gadgets and new capabilities, and you've not figured out how that's going to work within your systems, it will come. So it's important to understand everything that's coming. And of course, analytics are huge, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later.